When we divide humankind, we often do it by color, and each color, real or imagined, comes with a story. We're taught that some are ancient, some are dangerous, some are exotic, and some the architects of civilization. But those stories weren't written by truth, they were written by power. And the story of white skin, the way it's remembered, celebrated, and mythologized, is one of the most carefully constructed lies in history. The first humans were dark skinned. They evolved that way for a reason: survival. High melanin protected against the sun's ultraviolet radiation, especially near the equator, and guarded folate, critical for fertility and fetal development. It was life insurance written in melanin. Then humans began to move out of Africa and into Europe and Asia. As humans moved north, the sunlight changed. Less UV, colder air, longer winters. But the body still needed sunlight to make vitamin D. Without it, bones weakened, children got sick, fertility drops. Over time, entire populations suffer. The solution wasn't strength, it was softness. Lighter skin let in more light. That was the adaptation. That's where light skin begins. The genes behind it, like SLC24A5 and SLC45A2, started spreading through Europe around 8,000 years ago. These genes likely arrived in Europe with Middle Eastern farmers migrating west. A second wave came later, steppe nomads from Russian grasslands, around 5,000 years ago. By about 4,000 years ago, most Northern Europeans had pale skin. Southern Europe was different. More sun, more migration, more variation. It never fully conformed to the racial ideal of whiteness that Northern Europe came to represent. And here's the perspective check. Humans were painting caves 40,000 years ago, building pyramids 4,500 years ago, growing corn in the Americas before pale skin had even stabilized in Europe. And when ancient Greece and Rome were rising, the so-called roots of the West, their people were almost certainly darker skinned than the marble statues that later came to define them. The whiteness we associate with those empires came centuries later, added not by genetics, but by myth, paint, and power. In Britain, Cheddar Man, 10,000 years ago, had dark skin, blue eyes, and no light-skinned alleles. A native Briton, but not white. And here's something else. Much of Northern Europe, the whitest region in modern imagination, was uninhabited for most of human history. Covered in ice, empty. Permanent settlement only began after the glaciers retreated, just 9,000 to 10,000 years ago. So no, white skin is not ancient. It's younger than agriculture in China, younger than the city of Jericho, younger than storytelling, burial rites, and myth. It's not a civilizational core. It's just a regional adaptation to weak sun, cloudy skies, and low vitamin D diets. But whiteness? That's something else entirely. White skin is biology. Whiteness is politics. Whiteness is a tool. The ancients didn't divide humanity by color. Greece saw Greeks and barbarians. Rome saw citizens and outsiders. Power, not pigment. Race, as we know it, was invented in the 15th to 18th centuries by empires that needed moral justification for plunder. European explorers didn't just discover land, they discovered a problem. How do you enslave people and still call yourself civilized? How do you steal continents and still sleep at night? You invent race. You invent whiteness, Whiteness becomes a category of permission to own land, to vote, to rule, to kill without guilt. It told poor Europeans they were better than slaves, even if they owned nothing. It told settlers they were chosen, even if they were criminals. It told the world that whiteness meant human and everything else meant threat, burden, or property. The US legalized it, the census enforced it, the courts debated who was white enough for citizenship. It's not heritage, it's a set of benefits. Whiteness is a system, not a skin tone, and it's flexible. Take the Irish. Among the palest people on earth, red hair, blue eyes, skin that reflects every wavelength of light. If whiteness were just about biology, the Irish would have been crowned first. But they weren't. In the eyes of the English, they were savages, Catholic, poor, colonized, treated as an inferior race, starved during famines, caricatured as subhuman in newspapers. Laws banned their language, their religion, even their property ownership. When they fled to America, they brought the same skin, but not the same status. They were called drunk, dirty criminals. Does this sound familiar? Stripped of land, treated as foreign, given stereotypes instead of rights. This wasn't a glitch. It was a system running as designed. They were not considered white, not until they were needed to help enforce whiteness. Irish immigrants became police, landlords, and politicians. They rose by helping hold the ladder and kicking others off it. That's the transaction. Whiteness isn't granted by skin tone. It's earned through loyalty to the racial order. And the Irish weren't alone. Southern Europeans, Spaniards, Italians, Greeks were once seen as racially suspect, swarthy, untrustworthy, hot-blooded. Their features weren't the problem, their origins were. But after World War II, whiteness expanded. America needed numbers, needed unity, so the gate widened just enough. Today, many descendants of those once rejected groups don't even know their families had to become white, that it wasn't automatic, that it never really was. The Irish weren't white until America needed more bodies. Italians and Jews weren't white until after World War II. Now the border of whiteness shifts in real time, expanding when convenient, tightening when threatened. Today, white skin still carries unspoken status. It means leniency in a traffic stop, justice that trusts you're innocent, overrepresentation in movies, followed by outrage when the story reflects someone else. It means neutrality in a job interview, humanity by default. It's not your fault if you have it. It's your fault if you pretend it's not real, because whiteness didn't come from the ground like a resource. It was built through paperwork, propaganda, and power. White skin didn't build civilizations. It didn't create morality. It wasn't first, and it wasn't special. It was just a response to the dark. Not the metaphorical kind, the literal one. The solution to cold skies, weak sun, and low vitamin D. A biological adaptation, not a birthright. But whiteness was something else. Whiteness was engineered to conquer, to divide, to rule. You want the truth? White skin is an adaptation. Whiteness is a machine. And if you can't tell the difference, you're still inside it. And maybe that's the real twist. White skin is the youngest in the room, the last to arrive, the newest face at the table, and yet it's been giving directions like it wrote the map. But youth often confuses confidence for wisdom. It talks over its elders, declares its way is the only way, forgets that older skin walked farther, knew more, built longer. Maybe we've been spending too long following the youngest voice, mistaking loudness for leadership, mistaking pale for proven.